everyone, the grades are in and I got an A in MedSurg, so let me tell you how you're gonna get one too. Hi everyone, I'm the Danielle Denise and welcome to my channel. Here I make videos about my nursing journey, mental health support, and other lifestyle content. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. But if you want to see how I got this A in MedSurg, keep on watching. All right. So technically, your girl got an A-, but she could have had an A, okay? Had I known what I know now at the start of the semester, things would have been very different. As you guys know from my last video, I ended up scoring the highest grade on our final due to these study tips that I acquired at the end of the semester. Had I known them at the beginning, things would have been very different. Perhaps. I guess I'll just have to see in MedSurg too. So as a backstory, the way that I studied in undergrad is a little different than how I study now in nursing school. It was a good foundation, but the difference is that in undergrad, the science-focused classes were more so based on your knowledge and how well you knew the information that was taught and that was in your books and on your PowerPoint slides. Nursing school is more, now you know the information, now apply it. So this left no room for cramming. I needed to start from the jump. So let's get into these study tips. Now my study tips begin before you even get to class. So I'll give you what I do before lecture, during lecture, after lecture, and before the exam. So before lecture, let's get into it. Before lecture, they give you required readings. Did I ever read? No. I mean, if it works for you and you realize that you have the time, by all means, do it. I didn't have time. So let me tell you what you can do. If your professor provides you with the lecture PowerPoints before you get to class, use them. Download them, skim through them, read over them, and familiarize yourself with the information. If there's anything that you don't know, refer to your textbook and try to brush up on that information. And then that'll help you for once you get to lecture, you're already familiar with the information, so it's not about trying to learn in lecture. You're getting to hear what you need to know. In this before lecture portion, this is where a lot of my classmates had me beat. They had already started making their study guides. Now, that is not me, okay? Hear me, I still got an A, but they were on it. So if you're this kind of student, go ahead and start making that PowerPoint. Make your pre-reading notes. If you're one of those readers, you can start jotting down your notes, getting that onto your study guide, and look at you, you're already studying. You're already studying for real. But if you're like me, hit those PowerPoints, glance over the information, familiarize yourself so you're not lost in lecture. Let's keep going. So when you're in lecture, this is what you're gonna focus on. Depending on your professor and who you have and the content of the information and how many PowerPoint slides you have, sometimes it's not always on the teacher, but you're going to have lecture days where you have over 100 slides. And you're sitting there like, who's teaching this? And who's supposed to learn this? Who's getting tested on this? Yeah, it's going to be some long lecture days. But you've already brushed over on the information. You're ready for lecture. Don't let that intimidate you. Try your best to take notes, okay? So most of my classmates have iPads, but like I said in one of my previous videos, I spent my money this semester on a new MacBook. So I was typing away. You can decide to print out your lecture slides. I do that for my pathophysio class, but not for MedSurg. So if you want to hear how I study for patho, that one I got a solid A. Just let me know in the comments down below. But for MedSurg, I was typing all the time. There's a lot of information and a lot of content, so I would type directly onto my slides, or like my classmates, they would write directly onto their slides using their iPads. And since you've already familiarized yourself with the information before class, you're able to listen to your professors because they have a lot of interesting stories to tell regarding the information being taught. So you're able to make better connections to the stories, to the information and knowledge that you've already acquired. So before lecture, during lecture, let's get into after lecture. Now this is the majority of where the work gets put in. So you have your pre-lecture notes and your pre-lecture information. You have your lecture notes and your lecture stories and information that you gain from there. Now it's time to put it all together. Now for me, I knew coming in that I was a person who liked to rewrite my notes. And it really helped me, especially writing them out by hand. However, when you have so many assignments, care plans, head-to-toe assessments in your other classes, papers, another exam coming up in a different class, it's just a lot, and you have to manage your time accordingly. So since I was no longer writing out my notes, I had to learn how to immediately jump on doing my own study guide. Even if you don't have time to rewrite your notes, realize that you're kind of doing it when you're writing out your study guide. The beginning of the semester, I was riding on the blessings of my classmates who had already completed most of the study guide by the time it came to get to studying for real. So they would send me their not their PowerPoints, but their study guides. And I was able to jump in from there and include any information that I found pertinent and really studied from that. So honestly, my grade is a contribution to the work that my classmates put in as well. Like, they really helped you grow out. And as you're doing your study guides, you're going to see which subjects are most important to your professor. So let me show you guys what some of my study guides look like. So what you'll hear often when trying to learn what to study for MedSurg is like the list and the order that you need to focus on. Say you have pleural effusion. You need to know the pathophysiology, the risk factors, the signs and symptoms, the tests, the medications, the labs, the complications, your nursing considerations, and your management for that process. Yes, you can listen to a YouTuber tell you that, but my professor had already outlined it for us. Like, she didn't outline our study guide, but she already outlined what we would need to know and what we would need to focus on. So me coming to YouTube to try to find that out wasn't really helpful because my professor had already listed that for me. And I was able to fill that in. I don't know if you guys can see it, but like fill that in myself with the information from lecture, notes, pictures from the PowerPoints, and just incorporating charts from the book. And I was able to include all of that into one study guide. And then in your study guides, should your professor provide you with one that with the information that you need to focus on, you're going to see what they're mostly going to quiz you on or what you will most likely see on your exams. If you're making your own, that's nice, but be sure to go back in and highlight what it is that's on your professor's study guide. So now that you got your study guide together, start learning and going over this information anytime that you get the chance. What I liked best I learned from like medical students is passive studying. Now, I used to do this in undergrad, but I didn't realize that there was a name to it. You're exposing yourself to this information constantly. In your free time, just reading some notes. If you're ever like doing your makeup, listening to a lecture, constantly exposing yourself to that information so that it's in the back of your head. Yes, take breaks. Of course, take breaks. But it's easier to constantly expose yourself to this information rather than cramming. But going back to rewriting your lecture notes, if it helps and you find yourself with a little bit of extra time, go ahead and do that. If you guys saw my study with me video, I use my little whiteboard and I kind of write things out, just the shorter stuff, not like the bulk of the information, because then I find myself more so memorizing. But if there's anything that I'm not able to really grasp, I end up just memorizing and I write it out on my little whiteboard. I'll leave a video link up above for my study with me tips, and it also included the videos that I like to watch. Lastly, before we get to the pre-exam study portion, my favorite thing to do is meeting with a study group. Now, I have a core like study group and then I have a study partner. My study partner is like my nursing bestie. Like, that's my girl. Okay. Like, we study kind of different, but then similarly, and it really helps me focus and really grasp the information. Like concepts where I just don't understand, she really clarifies it for me. And I noticed that a lot of people in my class have like their one person. Yes, they have groups, but they have like that one person that they're like, that is their ace. Like, that's their person to study with, their nursing bestie, get you one, okay? So before the exam, this is when I did practice questions, practice questions, practice questions, practice questions, and I sprinkled in a little bit of practice questions. And what's important with these practice questions is that you're understanding the reasoning. I think that helps me more so than actually taking the practice questions, is understanding the reasoning as to why that answer is the correct answer. And that concludes all of the studying that I did for MedSurg. Now that I've given you guys all of my study tips, yes, I got an A-, but like I said, had I started with these tips earlier, I could have gotten that A, that solid A. But I'm not going to be bitter. I'm just going to get better. And for MedSurg 2, I'm coming for you. Wow. Am I a rapper? I did not want it to come out like that, but it did. So it is what it is. Wow. I'm a rapper. But my point is that like the way I started, going into this next semester, I got to go a little harder. I got to do a little more. And now I'm ready. So I'm documenting these tips not only for you guys, but for me as well, to come back to to jump in for next semester. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. Be sure to subscribe. Let me know if these tips were helpful. If you guys are actually watching this and you have already gone through MedSurg, be sure to leave a comment down below with some tips as well to help everybody out. We all want to be great nurses, okay? All right, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.